and I'm using a new Go Live software. So at the recommendation of somebody else, we're now streaming into Facebook and into YouTube and into Twitch. I don't even know what the hell Twitch is, to be honest with you. That's how old I am. But apparently we have it. I asked my wonderful assistant to set up a Twitch channel for us. So as soon as I figure out where that is and where that lives, I will drop links and let y'all know where to subscribe, or where to go if you want to watch that. But we should be live, hopefully inside of YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. If you're watching right now and you don't mind just dropping me in the chat and letting me know that you can actually see what's going on, I would be eternally grateful, given that we're using a new solution here. So anyway, if you haven't seen me before, you don't know what this is, my name is Qasim. I'm the founder and CEO of Solutions 8. We're the best and most respected Google Ads agency on the planet. I'm also digitalmarketer.com's elite traffic coach, and I run a weekly Ask Me Anything. I go live inside of our YouTube channel, and I just want people to have the opportunity to approach us with whatever questions they might have, or issues they're running into, and we talk specifically about Google Ads. I don't mind veering off a little bit in the realm of like paid traffic and maybe even general entrepreneurship, assuming you even want my advice there, because that's not my realm of expertise per se, any further than I've just built my own businesses. So yeah, I'd love to know what you got, what you want, what you're struggling with. Hit me up in the chat, and I'll start answering questions as much as I'm capable of in any case. So in the meantime, I think the thing that I'll talk about while I'm waiting for people to lob in and hit the chat, I see we just got our very first viewer a minute and a half in. I don't know who you are, but I'm grateful for you, and I'm glad that you're here. In the meantime, I wanted to start talking about a video that I posted recently that's gotten a lot of traction responses. I have a feeling that the major changes that we saw inside of Facebook are going to end up pushing us and pushing a lot of the Facebook advertisers into Google. So if you're part of the Google Ads fam, God bless you, I'm with you. Know that you need to start watching Facebook like a hawk, and you need to watch the changes that Facebook is making, because number one, I think those changes could be predictive indicators of some of the things that Google chooses to do. Google's letting Facebook take the first couple of bullets, but it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Google start using this as an opportunity to tell where advertisers' threshold for pain is. That's number one. Number two, a lot of these advertisers, especially ones that had things really dialed in, they're losing immense amount of data. They're losing immense amount of data and visibility, and they're going to have to spend into the Facebook ecosystem in order to make that up, which means everything across Facebook is going to get more expensive. And when they do that, they're also going to be pricing some people, including potentially themselves, out of the market. It's like a self-imposed inflation. When this happens, all of these Facebook advertisers are going to go rushing into other channels. They're going to try to find other opportunities and other places to spend. I think they're going to go to YouTube. Now, there are going to be other places too, like the content marketing play, I think, is still a really strong one. Taboola, Outbrain, those guys. But I think YouTube is the closest thing to Facebook in terms of the way the marketing funnel works. It's the closest analogy that a marketer would have to where they could take their exact same funnel that was performing on Facebook and put it somewhere else. And then from YouTube, they're going to segue, potentially into display and some of the other Google ecosystems. So watch what's happening, because I think we're going to see quite a bit of influence as far as what these Facebook advertisers are doing, and then the impact that they can possibly have on our on the Google Ads ecosystem as a whole. So if you just joined, I noticed we're up to 8, which is awesome. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Feel free to drop into the chat any questions that you have. That's the whole point of my Ask Me Anything. I'm using a brand new streaming software. I'm using Restream.io because I wanted to be able to go into multiple channels. So we're streaming into YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And I haven't used this before. So let me know how you like it, or if you dislike it. Let me know if the chat option is even working, to be honest with you, because if it's not, then this is going to make this whole thing, for naught. So if you're watching and you can hit me in chat, let me know that this is working. If you don't mind, I would really appreciate it. But otherwise, hit me up with your questions. What are you struggling with? What are you trying to do? What do you want to talk about? What advice do you want? I just saw Adby hit me up. How do you think this will affect SEO? Thanks for hitting me in the chat, by the way, Abdi. How do I think the Facebook impact will affect SEO? I don't think it will at all. I think that the Facebook changes are going to impact the paid ad ecosystem in a significant way, because so much money is being spent inside of Facebook. From an organic perspective, I guess maybe, Abdi, if I understand your question, it would be how are the major privacy changes going to affect SEO? So, if you take into consideration like Google's Flock, for instance, the federated learning of cohorts, the death of third-party cookies, the impact to SEO there, that's a really good question. And it's not one I've thought about before, but if I were to just kind of Forrest Gump my way through this, I think this is going to help Google subvert overly aggressive SEOs. So the agencies and the people that have been able to game the system, they're gaming the system based off of data that they're no longer going to have access to. What Flock is doing is it's taking away your visibility into individual user activity until it becomes your owned first-party data. So until somebody actually opts in, you're not able to see everything that somebody's doing. And what that means is the adjustments that you used to make, SEO is all about like pulling levers and turning dials. The adjustments that you used to make are going to be heavily, heavily diluted. And so I think people are going to move away from the gamification that has become SEO towards hardcore, high-quality content creation. So I think we're going to see another renewed emphasis on content, which is so frustrating to say because that's really what we should all be doing anyway. Create quality content, build strong links. You're going to optimize your site pretty well, with some levels of technical optimization just to make sure that you're at least have a minimum level of visibility. I hope that's a good answer, Abdi. Let me know if I didn't quite understand what you were saying. Lee says, is it okay to pause Google campaigns to keep from going over budget during the month? Yeah, we do it all the time. I can tell you that extended pauses, this is anecdotal. I have no way to prove this. I feel like we get penalized for extended pauses. I feel like Google pokes you a little bit. But you can pause for a couple of days, generally speaking, without massive impact. But anything longer than that, and you'll notice that there's just this ramp up period that you have to deal with. And, for a campaign that's been, around for a couple of years and been fully vetted, it pisses me off because there really shouldn't be the ramp up period. So try to avoid pauses if you can, just by managing the budgets. But if you can't, a couple of day pause isn't a big deal. Where the exception to that is if you're using, some of Google's smart bidding. So, for instance, if you're using smart shopping, a pause to smart shopping could be potentially catastrophic. Sometimes it's okay, but sometimes we just see it like fly right off the rails. Now, it can come back as quickly as it falls off, but that's always frustrating too because, we've got clients with smart shopping campaigns that are. We had one yesterday. I wish I could share it with you without showing the client's information. They spent $11,000 and they made 1.1 million, which is insane. They have a 10,000% return on ad spend. It's an unbelievable campaign. I'm not shutting that off for anything, for any reason. I don't care where we are with the budget. I'm letting the client know, like, I'm keeping this going. So you want to be a little bit careful with pauses. I've noticed the same thing across other ad ecosystems. I think it's a Pavlov's dog play. I think all they're trying to do is like, if you pause your campaigns, then we're gonna hurt them, and so we end up being trained to be good advertisers. Thanks for that question, though, Lee. Really appreciate you. Anybody else with questions, comments, concerns, confessions on Google Ads? Would love to know what I can help with. I go live every Friday, 9:00 a.m. Arizona time, and I want to make sure that I'm providing as much value as I possibly can to all of our subscribers. Here's Bohan, my boy. What's up, Bohan? Thanks for being here, brother. Bohan said, it would be awesome to have top-level maximum daily budgets in Google like Amazon. Amazon lets you set a total account daily spend. Yeah, so I've thought a little bit about this. I think the convoluted budget allocation inside of Google is by intention. And that's amplified by the fact that Google does things like, for instance, let's say you're using manual CPC and you have enhanced CPC enabled. It used to be that Google told us how much more they could spend. I think originally it was they could spend up to 100% more, and then it jumped up to 250% more. And then I think the lid is off completely. If you read Google's documentation, they no longer tell us what percentage more they're willing to spend. They just say that they will increase your bid so that you can win that particular auction. And in order to be able to do things like that, they need to have flexible budgets set inside of the account. Because they need to be able to, kind of expand beyond the boundaries and then make adjustments and shrink back into it. So I think that that's built in by design. But I agree with you. I mean, it would be really nice to be able to, to restrict Google. But that's true for so many other facets and so many other discussions too. Just some of the liberties they take. I mean, if we're talking about budgets, I want to talk about match types. Google has gotten so freaking expansive with their match types. It's unbelievable, and it pisses me off because if I ask for exact match, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing, and I know what I want. And for them to take exact match and make it not exact, there's something about that I think is not integrous, which isn't an accusation that I level lightly. But it's a little frustrating to see them doing that. Thanks for that comment, though, Bohan. Appreciate you. Just so y'all know, Bohan's my boy. This is a guy who's been providing value since we started the channel. Shows up all the time, drops a bunch of value bombs. Some of them we've given away, and I'm so grateful for that, and so grateful for this little community that we're building. So it's been really cool. If this is your first time, I shoot a video every day. I go live every Friday. If you are interested in the content, I'll ask you to subscribe, because the subscription is a nice indication to Google that I actually know what I'm talking about and you want to hear from me. So as far as us getting optimized, it's really helpful. If you're not interested, I'm not going to beg for subscribers because I don't want to bug you. But I do appreciate you being here. If you're running Google Ads, if you want to run Google Ads, let me know what your questions are. While I'm waiting for the questions to roll in, I will start to promote something. This is a value bomb because it's free, and it's one of the things I'm most proud of. So I've got the 3x Shopify challenge. This is a challenge that my partner and I founded together, and this is absolutely free to join. It's a 3-day live intensive where we're going to walk through and show you everything we've learned about smart shopping. We show you click by click, point by point, every single thing that we do in order to build high-performing smart shopping campaigns. Like I said earlier, I've got one account that has they spent 11 grand, made 1.1 million, and you can see all of these case studies are ours. Our clients are our students. So this is real data, and it's not cherry-picked. I've got clients that have 600% ads or return on ad spend for 2 years. You can see some of the case studies and testimonials from our previous challenges. And what's cool about this too is this is the very first time this has ever been free. We used to charge for this. We got some really cool sponsors just because the last one went so well. And so it's a free challenge. It starts May 10th. So it's May 10th, 11th, and 12th. And if you can opt in and join, we're going to be giving away the farm, really. Where are the dates? I should have the dates on this damn landing page. If I don't, there it is. May 10th through 12th. I'm going to go put that above the fold because that's stupid. Oh, there it is. Cool. May 10th through 12th. So if you have the time and the interest and the inclination, please join the challenge. I dropped the link here into the stream. Would love to see y'all there. And I think you're going to be blown away by the quality of the content. Looks like we got some questions trickling in. Adewal says, I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name, by the way. Just wondering how the ROAS bidding works. It seems the algorithm aims to achieve the goal dead on, nothing more or less. Yeah, what a good question. It does. So the lower your ROAS requirement, the more traffic that's available to you. So you can have a really high ROAS requirement, and you can even hit it. You can tell Google, like, hey, I need 1,200% ROAS, and Google can say, okay, but in order to do that, we can only show you, in very refined areas. And as you drop your ROAS goal, your campaign scales. That's actually one of the keys to dropping to scaling a campaign is dropping your ROAS goal. What we like to do is we like to run smart shopping without target ROAS enabled. And we want to do that because we want to see what the cat's going to drag in before we ask Google for anything. And the way that I contextualize this is imagine trying to figure out what's inside of a room. If you go in with a particular ROAS requirement, what you're doing is you're basically putting blinders on. You're saying, I can't see anything outside of this box. Well, we don't know how big that room is. Whereas if you just go in and say, all right, show me what you can bring me, then Google starts bringing you purchases and conversions. Now you can say, like, okay, the ROAS is too low. I'm going to increase my ROAS requirement. It will decrease the available traffic or the market availability, but increase your ROAS. So as you work to decrease the ROAS requirement, you're going to be able to scale your campaign. And that's, if you think about it, that's just standard good old-fashioned supply and demand. The higher your ROAS requirement, the lower the traffic that's available to you, and vice versa. I have seen quite a few campaigns where Google exceeds our ROAS requirements. The other thing to pay attention to, and this honestly is the Trojan horse, is if you're in a space that has a longer or stronger lifetime value than the initial purchase, like if you're a consumable, for instance, if you're selling like candy or shampoo, which are two industries that I've dealt with, you need to track your ROAS from an LTV perspective. You need to track your lifetime ROAS because you're going to be in a position where you're not necessarily always going to be able to monetize off of that first purchase. So I hope that helps. Adewale, let me know if you have more questions on that. Oh, you came back. I usually do not achieve a higher ROAS if I set the goal lower with the aim of getting more sales volume. 150% or so. Is that your experience? Oh, so that's the other thing to know too. There's a really weird line of demarcation with smart shopping. If you don't hit a 300% ROAS, Google won't scale your campaign. I don't know why that is. And that's anecdotal, by the way. They haven't said that. That's just what we found. We can have campaigns. We have clients that could be successful. We have clients that could be profitable at, 100% or ROAS or 150% ROAS because they're consumables and they have stronger lifetime values, or maybe it's a loss leader or whatever. But for whatever reason, our experience has been, unless a client can achieve a 300% ROAS, Google doesn't prioritize that campaign. And I think, now again, that could be paranoia. It could be me misreading data. It could be the whole correlations and causation thing. But if I were to read into that a little bit, I think that Google is using it as a sign of relevance and potential longevity. They might say, like, we want to put this in front of retailers that we know are going to be around a while, that are actually converting. And so, outside of you being in a violently competitive space where the traffic is just too expensive to be able to afford it otherwise, I have seen that a 300% ROAS is a prerequisite to being able to scale. That's actually why we called our challenge the 3x Shopify challenge, because we want to help people achieve a 300% ROAS. If you can get 3x your ad spend, you're usually able to scale up pretty quickly. Interestingly, that's also, generally speaking, where most retailers begin to be profitable. Now, obviously, you get more profitable as your ROAS scales up, but that 300% covers cost of goods, shipping, fulfillment, keeping the lights on, et cetera. So it would make sense to me that Google is building that. It says, I recently changed my Google ads from maximize clicks to maximize conversion, and sales on my e-commerce dropped. Can it be that sometimes clicks ads are more profitable? So what's interesting about Google's smart bidding is Google is going to give you what you're asking for in a very literal sense. If you go for maximize clicks, I would go for maximize clicks if you feel really confident with your targeting. And for a fact, like, I want to be in front of everybody inside of whatever target you've defined. So if it's interest-based, in-market, affinity, geographic, whatever your targeting is, and you feel really confident about your targeting, then you can go maximize clicks. And what's nice about that is it's going to try to get you as many of those clicks as it possibly can for the cheapest amount that it possibly can. And that's really good for ecosystems where there's not a big disparity in the quality of a prospect. If you go for maximize conversions, and I imagine if it's e-commerce, you're probably doing maximize conversion value. Would that be correct, Victoria? Correct me if I'm wrong there. But what Google is trying to do in that instance is get you the most amount of money effectively. And in those situations, I've seen Google almost outsmart itself, if that's helpful. So bid strategies change things pretty significantly. The other thing to do if you change your bid strategies, make sure you're checking the proper attribution model, because if you're playing nothing but last click attribution, then you might not be getting a full view of your data and what's actually involved in the purchase path. Melissa's here. Thanks, Melissa. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I don't know if it's Melissa or Militia. Either way, Melissa's been a long time viewer and commenter. Really appreciate you too. Bohan said, if you sometimes drop the ROAS below your desired number, Google still gets you excellent conversions. If you have a good offer, dropping the ROAS opens you up to more buyers in Google's database. Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. But like you said, it depends on your offer. So the lower your ROAS goes, it doesn't necessarily mean that Google's only going to hit that. It just means that you're giving Google a little bit more breadth and latitude, which is pretty cool. Adewale, thank you. Really appreciate the question. Ryan, my boy. Ryan cracked the code on residential real estate, by the way, which is freaking impossible. So this dude's an assassin. Ryan, feel free to drop in your web address if you want people to be able to connect with you. But Ryan said, Google's telling me that I had 21 conversions yesterday, yet only 3 signups. Apparently, Google changed the requirements for what counts as a conversion to my account. What? We need to check our accounts on a regular basis to make sure Google isn't changing things in our campaign without us knowing. Very annoying. So, Ryan, let's back up. When you go into the conversions tab of your Google Ads campaign, are there new conversions added or prior conversions that have been moved to yes in the count as conversion column? because that's nuts. I've seen Google make some automated updates elsewhere, but I haven't seen them change conversion requirements. Oh, and Bohan's asking if you're running display. If memory serves, because I looked at Ryan's campaign, we hopped on a screen share, and I think he's dedicated search with maybe some display remarketing. And just so y'all know, Google is only as good as the conversion events that you give it. So if you're running Google Ads, and to Ryan's point here, changing conversion events is catastrophic error to any campaign. So make sure you keep your conversion actions, airtight, and then test those actions on a regular basis. I can't tell you how many clients, will come to us and say, yeah, we had a campaign that was running really well, and then it just fell off 6 months ago. We don't know why. And then we look into it, and it's like, oh, that was right around the time you rebuilt your website, or you changed your tech stack, or you added these new forms, and now Google can't track any conversions. Ryan's saying they added new columns that they were counting as conversions. Dude, that is nuts. Ryan, can you send me a screenshot of that? You can blur out anything you don't want me to see, but I'm going to shoot a video on that. I didn't realize that Google was proactively adding conversions. Let me Google this real quick. Automatically adding conversion actions. I know it can happen if you're using a specific type of CMS. So like, Shopify, for instance, with their integration will add conversion actions. But I didn't think that Google was going to, especially, knowing what I know about your campaign, your lead gen. So that wouldn't even be applicable. Oh, you switched it back. Of course you did. All right. If it happens again, let me know. And if anybody else has seen that, let me know too. That's just, man, that's such a, hopefully that's not a prelude of things to come. Google is getting so freaking aggressive. They're getting so aggressive with their automated adjustments. Y'all, they're adding ad copy on your behalf, and you don't know that they're doing it unless you go in and check. And some of their changes that they're adding automatically don't even show up in change history. So Google will do things inside of your account that don't even show up in change history, which I've got a video on that too. I'll show you where to go turn it off. But absolutely freaking nuts. Maher, what's the best way to organize 1,000 SKUs with the $300 daily budget? Bro, I would let the algorithm do that for you. So I would take the 1,000 SKUs that you have, I'd build them, put them into a smart shopping campaign, and then spend and let Google find the products that are performing the best. The exception to that would be any SKUs that don't have the margin to be profitable at 300%. For the same reason that I just gave people earlier. So I would exclude any products where you say, hey, 300% ROAS, I'm still not going to be profitable. Take all those out, put everything else in the bucket, run a smart shopping campaign, give it the full 45 days that it needs for the machine learning. Realize that your learning starts on day 46. So you run it for 45 days. On day 46, you actually then start watching the data, and you're going to start seeing what products are performing the best. And what's interesting is it's not the products that are selling the best. It's the products that are acquiring the most customers, even if that product doesn't sell. So if somebody Googles, pencil sharpener, and they click on your shop, and they go and they look at the pencil sharpener, but they don't end up buying the pencil sharpener, but because they landed on your shop, now they bought the eraser and the pocket protector and the LED glasses and whatever. The pencil sharpener still ends up getting the credit for those purchases. So when you're inside of smart shopping, what's insane is you'll get a bunch of products that have low dollar amounts and actually have zero purchases for those products, and yet the ROAS is attributed back to those products, which is really cool because it lets you know what your top of the funnel looks like from a paid ad perspective. Like, what is it that brings people in terms of interest-based segmentation? One thing that we were recommending to people that I still kind of recommend, but I realize now we ran into some issues. We were telling folks to split up their smart shopping campaigns according to margin, low, medium, high. And so you'd run 3 separate smart shopping campaigns. You'd take your 1,000 plus SKUs and you'd separate them according to margin. It's smart because it helps you prioritize budget according to your highest margin products. However, what we found was Google doesn't share remarketing capabilities across products that are split within different campaigns. And so if somebody goes to a product in the low margin category and then ends up on a product in the high margin category, the question as to who gets to remarket to that customer ends up getting kind of vague and nebulous, and it hurts your remarketing. And hurting your remarketing in smart shopping is actually a catastrophic error because It's a display-based remarketing push. So you got to be really careful there. And I feel bad because that's advice we're giving people. It still works, and the logic behind it is sound. But we found out after the fact that, this also could potentially hurt our remarketing. Which, by the way, y'all, we're learning. Like everything that we're telling you, it's what we're learning in real time, which is really cool because you get to see what a real agency is doing in real time. But there's also some risks because it's like, hey, there are some risks to taking your advice, which is we're learning as we're going. So hopefully that lands well. And Maher, I hope I answered your question. Let me know. Militia says, I have 15 pages of keywords for both PT and orthopedic campaigns. For PT, imagine is physical therapy. For ad groups, how granular do I need to get? There seems to be tons of ad groups because different types of physical therapy and ortho services subcategories. Yeah, Militia, get as granular as you can. Don't go single key phrase ad group. I don't believe in SCAGs anymore. The way to do this is just play the empathy game. Get into the mind of your customer. And so, if it's a physical therapy for your ankle, physical therapy for your wrist, those are two different ad groups potentially, especially if you know that they're both commercially viable. So if somebody's searching for something, ask yourself, would the ad copy and the landing page apply to both of these keywords? And if the answer is yes, then they can be in the same ad group. If the answer is no, then you need to split them up. That's a lot harder in the short term when you don't know what's going on. And I happen to know that you're dealing with a lower spend too. So with the low spend, you might want to just prioritize what your primary business lines are. But you don't want to take everything and put it into one ad group because then you're just crazy diluted. Your quality score is low. The relevance from a search perspective is low. Even if you're using dynamic keyword insertion, it doesn't match up properly. So I would get granular. And that's something you can do over time, by the way. If you wanted to, you could build one general ad group or a couple of general ad groups. And then as you see certain long tail key phrases performing, you can start to build more focused ad groups off of that. So you can be like, gosh, like our adrenal fatigue ad group is crushing it. I'm going to go, we're getting a ton of conversions for adrenal fatigue within the physical therapy. I don't know if those two things are related, by the way. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but let's just say that they were. You could say, I'm going to go build a separate ad group just for this. So separate. And then I would recommend building, like having a separate page on your website, separate ad group, separate ad copy. And now you get to go in and focus. And then what's really cool about that is you get to do things like dynamic or DSA, dynamic search ads, where Google just takes the page and tries to advertise for you. You get to do broad automation using broad match and smart bidding. When you have specific ad groups and key phrases, that really opens you up to a ton of really amazing strategies. Thanks for the question, Militia. Appreciate you. John Rollo. John says, I've noticed that smart bidding can work really well in some campaigns, even ones with low budget. Sometimes I feel the algorithm just isn't making the right decision. Do you think some accounts benefit from much more manual control, or what is your philosophy on manual versus smart bidding strategies? Yeah, dude, it's nuts. It's nuts. Google came out and said, this was October of last year. They said, use smart bidding and broad match. And we were like, no, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why on earth would I do that? You're idiots. We're going to waste money. But we have a rule, which is we test everything because you just never know when you're wrong. And we were wrong. The smart bidding and broad match crushed it. It was unbelievable. Crushed it for us. It crushed it for some of our clients. I think we did a beta test across 13 different accounts before we rolled it out account wide. Now it's a standard operating procedure for almost all new clients, depending on their industry. We'll run broad match and smart bidding. However, it only works for about half. So take half off the table. And then of the half that it works for, I have noticed a dilution in lead quality, and that was true for our campaigns too, my personal campaigns, when I was trying to get people that wanted to run Google Ads. And I've noticed that it relies very heavily on Gmail data. And that's anecdotal too, but I found that when we run broad match with smart bidding, we get way more leads with Gmail addresses, which kind of makes sense because Google's reading your email. So it's like, oh, I know exactly what this person wants, who they are, what they want to buy, what they're interested in, because I've got their email. And that can actually, there's implications there too. In some instances, that could actually be really positive for you, but in some instances, it could be negative. So, dude, you're absolutely right. Smart bidding sometimes crushes it. We, don't see anything work better. And then other times we go right back to manual CPC just because it's, it dies on the vine. It can be industry specific. It can be geo specific. We have 30 Montessori schools that we help. I've got an agency that's focused just on Montessori because I'm obsessed with Montessori education. And I think every child deserves to go to Montessori school. So we want to help Montessori schools grow. So we've got 30 some odd schools. And for some of them, broad match, smart bidding, crush it. For some of them, it doesn't. So think same industry, same avatar, same narrative, same ad copy, roughly, just a different geography. That's it. And that alone, that one little change, kills the strategy and the approach of the campaign. So that's why we just always have to be testing. AB Dub says, do you see lead form and call extensions as being acceptable workarounds to not controlling the landing page domain? My client is a company provided landing page in the life insurance space. Dude, I feel for you. It's the hardest thing in the whole wide world. If you can't control where the traffic is going, meaning you can't track it, you can't see it, you can't report on conversions. I've tried every which way. To be honest with you, I turn that work down. I turn that work down because I couldn't make it work. And now what you're thinking about, call only ads, lead forms, like it's an intelligent approach. And if you have no other choice but to try that, I'd say give it a shot. But my experience has been that lead forms are diluted quality from a lead quality perspective. Call only ads, I could go off on the crap that the call only ads drag in. They can be really viable, but people don't pay attention. They Google something and they click to call, and you get spammers, you get solicitors, and then you get like low quality leads. And so, if it's a big spend scenario and your client has the wherewithal to, they have the sales team or the inbound resources to take that on, that's fine. And also it depends on their industry. If you're like plumber or septic tank or, emergency, whatever, like call only is great. But for insurance, if you think about life insurance, that's a longer term sales cycle. That's somebody who really wants to do their research. You're dealing with an educated consumer. It's the type of person who plans. So they're going to spend some time researching. And if we're not able to track what they do on the site, I think you're in tough shape, man. I don't know that I would take that client. I hope that helps. I'm sorry to be a fence sitter. But the fact that people still do this to folks, the fact that there are businesses out there where you get access to a website, but you can't track, it's nuts. It's nuts. At a minimum, see if he can't roll up his own website and then just use that for paid ads. I hope that helps. Let me know if there's more to it. Adewal's saying, what attribution model would you recommend for smart shopping e-commerce campaign? That's an interesting question. So we were telling everybody for a long time to use time decay. My business partner just recently tested first click attribution. And in some campaigns, it worked really well. And if you think about why, it makes sense, because smart shopping is, you have so many touch points. You're hitting them potentially on search and in the shopping ecosystem, but then you're carpet bombing the display. Every facet of Google is incorporated into smart shopping. So Gmail display, YouTube, etc. What you really want to know in smart shopping is, where do they come from first? How did I get this customer? How did I get introduced to them? And that's first click attribution. And so by playing with first click attribution, it juices the algorithm to prioritize where your customers are coming from, with the assumption that the remarketing is going to continue. Now, I have seen first click spike a campaign's performance and then degrade it over time, which is also interesting. So play with it. It's going to be dependent upon your campaign. I would start with time decay, just because it's the thing that logically, like from a philosophical standpoint, matches with what smart shopping is. Smart shopping is, hey, I got to know you and I'm going to spend a bunch of time nurturing you. Time decay is, I got to know you and I'm going to spend a bunch of time nurturing you too, and I figure out what it is that made you convert. And so I think time decay philosophically is probably the smartest, but first click attribution, there's a lot to say about it. I hope that's helpful. Be interested if other people have other input on that too, if anybody's tested any other attribution models. Maher says, any way to avoid smart shopping for now? Boss doesn't have the patience and risk aversion to wait 45 days. Dude, I'm sorry to say, like, if you're not running smart shopping, you're at a massive disadvantage from an e-commerce perspective, because everything else is so heavily commoditized. Now, you can run traditional shopping campaigns and you can be profitable in traditional shopping campaigns. The problem with that is, I tell clients, hey, it takes 90 days. So like, let's say you try to hire me today and we were on a sales call. I would say it's going to take 90 days before I can give you what I think your feasible return on ad spend is going to be. And there's no guarantee that you're profitable. So on day 90, I might come to you and say, hey, Maher, your return on ad spend is 350%. And you're going to say, well, crap, I need 450% just to break even. And it took me 90 days to find out that this isn't going to work from you. That's traditional shopping. So smart shopping, actually, in my experience, works faster. So if your boss wants to avoid smart shopping, then you're going to want to avoid, I hope this doesn't sound petulant. I don't want to sound rude. Paid advertising takes time. Like, that 90-day window is actually fast as far as I'm concerned. That's like a quick time to life. And that's assuming that you're spending enough, in order to really achieve your goals. So I would go in there and, maybe show him this video, but definitely adjust his expectations, him or her. I don't know if your boss is male or female. Forgive me for making assumptions. Kelvin, what's up, brother? Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Ryan says smart bidding didn't work with residential real estate. Yeah, dude, I tried smart bidding with residential, and I can tell you that it showed a ton of leads for real estate investors. Like sell my house fast type of things, but the quality was all over the board. It wasn't worth it. Kelvin said, can you identify which bid strategy works for which industries, smart versus dynamic versus manual? General ideas is great. Man, so it's a fair question. We're in almost 100 different industries, maybe more. If you have an industry that doesn't have a difference in lead quality, so for instance, airport parking, doesn't matter if you got a Mercedes or a Pinto, right? Well, actually, gosh, even then, it's like, well, do you want indoor, outdoor? Do you want it to be roofed or whatever? But let's use that example for just a minute. Then I really like going after, maximum visibility. So like maximize clicks, for instance, because I know my market is solid. I know that if they're searching for this, I want it. I guess, like emergency, anything too, like septic, plumbing, etc. But the minute you end up in a lead quality situation, you run into some problems if you have diluted lead quality, which is for all smart bidding, Google's trying to get you a result that's algorithmically applied. The problem is you're measuring it according to an anecdotal rate of measure, which is why you have to go manual CPC. Now you can do manual plus enhanced. That's kind of the best of both worlds. You start with manual, see what the ecosystem can produce, add enhanced over it, and now Google is going to allow you to tweak, but make some adjustments if it feels like there's a potential pop. But for industries where there's a difference in lead quality, which is most of them, I still prefer manual. Most of our accounts are still being run on manual, and then we'll have like additional overlay campaigns where we're using like broad automation or some smart bidding, but those end up getting really specific. I only like using smart bidding when I feel very confident about the entire package. So I'll use manual to go like proof concept, and then once I'm like, okay, these keywords, this geography, this ad group, these ads, this landing page, boom, then you can move that over to smart and try to maximize and scale. That's a crappy answer, dude. I'm so sorry, Kelvin. I'm sitting on the fence here, brother, because I guess it's just so different for everybody. Kelvin say minimum budget for each of these campaigns. I can tell you that. Think about this. The average CPC inside of the Google ecosystem is $2. You're going to make one decision with every 100 clicks in theory. So every 100 clicks should lead you to a very strong, and I don't mean like micro decision, like a bid adjustment. I mean like, oh, this entire ad group didn't work, or I need to, focus on this key phrase. So every 100 clicks is called the base 100 optimization theory. It's the statistician's model. Every 100 clicks should lead you to a strong decision. So now the question is, how much do I have to spend to get 100 clicks? If your average CPC is $2, you have to spend $200. If your average CPC is $200, you see where I'm going with this. So figure out what your average CPC is, and then multiply that by 100, and now you know what you have to spend in order to make one really strong decision. Now, do you have to do base 100 optimization? No. You can cut that in half, accelerate your learning, and still really have, more or less 100 data points, because you're able to, to multiply every data point by 2 and weight it. Right? But that gets really dangerous, because you could also do that, down by 25% or down to 20% or whatever. So the academic model says, go get 100 clicks to make a good decision. I like making, anywhere between 3 and 5 strong decisions a month. So, if you're not spending, if your average CPC is $2 and I want to make 5 really good decisions, then we're going to need to spend $1,000. And the $1,000 line of demarcation for a local campaign is, I won't take a client if they can't spend that. And then you have to cascade that across your industry. So for like e-commerce, the average CPC we went through and averaged all of our smart shopping campaigns, and the average CPC was 56 cents. So now you have to go build in the model with smart shopping, realizing that you're going to get multiple impressions and clicks over time. And you can kind of back into that number. I actually have a really cool, let me share this with y'all. Let's turn this on. So if you go to solate.com/estimates, I have a document that I prepared that you can have. I'm going to make you fill out a form, but I promise not to like carpet bomb you or anything. I don't even think we have, oops. So when you fill out this form, oh, it goes to the email. Sorry, y'all. Give me just a second, because I want you to see this document. Let me just go get it. Cosmo, stop being lazy. All right, here's the doc. You can have this for free. With lead generation, what I do is I show you, like, let's say you wanted to spend $5,000, and your average CPC is $2. You can tell the last time I did this was for a personal injury attorney because their average CPC was so high. And you're like, all right, I make $150 on the first time I work with a client, but a client is worth $600 to me over the lifetime. And my conversion rate is pretty good at 10%. I close really well, so 1 in 5 would be okay. Let's say they close 1 in 4. Let's remove my fee there for just a minute. The return on ad spend on a monthly basis isn't great. They're making money, but their lifetime return on investment, and this isn't return on ad spend, this is return on investment, is 750%. That's a real viable campaign. Let's go beat this campaign up a little bit. Let's say that they have a competitive ecosystem, $15 CPC. They're losing money. They're breaking even lifetime. This doesn't work. It doesn't work. And no matter how much more they spend, it's not going to work. So you need to go in there and realize that a lot of this is a commoditized model. Like, so much of this, you're in a coliseum with a bunch of other competitors that are just willing to, if they're willing to pay more and they have a better product and they make more money on the back end because they have more ascension, you can't compete. You can't compete. I've dealt with so many leads and so many people who just have flawed business models. I'm trying to remember that gal, what she did specifically. She was in a financial, I'll try to veil her identity here too, in case she ends up watching my video. She was in a financial consulting industry where most people were monetizing this larger piece of the pie, this larger project. Like, you had to go through the whole thing. Let's say that she was a CPA, and most people are making the money off of doing your taxes year over year over year over year. All she wanted to do was this financial audit, and that was her product. And what I told her was, everybody else is giving that away for free. You're charging for it. You're going to lose. You're going to lose. So realize that so many times when somebody goes, oh, Google Ads didn't work for me. No, your business doesn't work. Google Ads told you. It told you. So this is for lead generation. For e-commerce, it's a little bit different, obviously. Here you can see the 56 cents I mentioned. And then you're going to go beat up on your conversion rate and decide and realize that it might not be 56 cents for you. It might be $1.50, which is really expensive in the world of shopping, right? But you could also say, hey, I make way more money because I'm selling, luxury sinks or whatever, and we're crushing life here. So make sure you're gauging the efficacy of your campaigns off of the lifetime value of a customer. If you're not doing that, this doesn't work. And incidentally, if you're in a one and done business, you might have a tough time. Because those get so commoditized so quickly. I can afford to pay a lot for a customer because once we have them, they stay. Whereas like somebody who's building websites or whatever, you're spending about as much as I am on a customer. But then once you build their website, they're kind of done unless you can, rope them into. There's a really good example. So imagine 2 different web developers, 2 different web dev agencies. One of them only sells websites. That's all they do. They don't do hosting. They don't do SEO. They don't do PPC, nothing. The minute that website deal is done, that customer's done, there's no more value optimization. Imagine website agency B. They have an ascension. They want to do your hosting. They want to do your maintenance. They want to do your uptime monitoring, all related to websites. They still get to niche down, but they can monetize you over time. They can afford to pay more for this customer and charge less and provide more services. So website agency A can't compete in that ecosystem. Go figure out how you can be agency B. Go figure out how you can, add ascension models, a different monetization, recurring revenue. And really, that's just adding value to your customer base. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there a little bit. Eddie, what up, Ednan? Thanks for being here, brother. I'm living the dream, man. Brendan saying for insurance, maybe reverse proxy the site and inject tracking. I think so, Brendan, that's ninja as hell. I think that some of those more advanced tracking techniques are going to go away with Flock. So where that's a good idea, I don't know that I think we're about to see the loss of viability there, just in terms of the way that Google's allowing information to be tracked and captured. Victoria says, I hope this isn't an inappropriate question. Any recommendations of good value givers like yourself in field of Facebook ads? Oh, yeah. My boy, I'm about to be on his podcast. So I'm going to be on their podcast next week. Actually, I might have to cancel that because I just got a speaking gig. But Spotlight Social, these are my buddies, just so you know. They have 2 Facebook published case studies. So Facebook published case studies about them. And they've also ran ads for Microsoft and all that. So go check out Spotlight Social. Their podcast is unreal. That's number 1. Number two, the dude I really like, he's a little, I don't want to say basic, but like he's kind of like the 101 type of guy, but John Loomer. I paid John for private education. He's schooled us up. I've been a part of his membership before. I'm pretty fond of his training and education too. And then of course, and y'all probably already know this, but I'm Digital Marketer's traffic coach. So like if you join Digital Marketer Elite, I'm the coach in DM Elite, the traffic coach. And they've got some great Facebook education. It all comes from Molly Pittman. And if you haven't followed Molly Pittman, I don't know what Molly is. What is she doing now? If Molly, I know she's shifted jobs. But if you haven't followed Molly Pittman, you have to follow Molly Pittman. And then I'm going to be on the Perpetual Podcast or Perpetual Traffic Podcast. Perpetual Traffic. Do you like how I can't spell? Which is from Digital Marketer, and they talk about nothing but traffic. So there's a ton of resources for you. Not all just Facebook, but they'll have a lot of Facebook for you. Great question. Great question. Thank you for that. Jan, would you start Smart Shopping campaign with a high budget? Not higher than it needs to be. I like to start with enough to make sure I'm reaching critical mass, which just using round numbers at 56 cent CPC, I like $4,000. $4,000 is for a national campaign. That's really healthy. And it's not going to make you rich, but it'll let you know, it gives you enough ramp to start to see what's working. And then you can layer on from there. And then you start to see that apex where, as your scale rises, your ROAS drops, and you get to see, how far and how deep you can go there. Eddie, is attribution model really important for smart shopping? Definitely. If you missed it, Ednon, I talked about this a little bit earlier. Go back. I talked about the difference between time decay and first click and how you might want to play between those two. There's no right answer, so it's really worth testing, but you'll definitely want to play. Jen says, if you have unlimited budget and 100 different products within one niche, how would you approach paid advertising? I would call me and come be my customer. Jen, I'd love to work with you. But I guess the less petulant answer would be, I would start with inbound search and smart shopping, and then I would expand out of that. So I've got a video called the bottom up funnel, which I'll share with you. I don't think, especially if you have unlimited budget, you don't want to live in paid ads forever. If you have unlimited budget, I'd start playing the SEO game. And that's true for all y'all, by the way. I own a Google Ads agency. My bread and butter is Google Ads. And I'm telling you, if you can get out of having to pay Google for your daily bread, do it. Now, SEO is so hard and expensive. It's hard to do. But I'm just dropping in a link here for you, Jen. It's our video on the bottom up funnel, and I'll teach you how to use Google Ads in order to inform email marketing, content marketing, thought leadership, speaking, SEO, etc. And hopefully that really helps you. Jen says, Google Ads agency for Google Ads employee. Dear God, please do not listen to Google Ads employees. Actually, go listen to one of those very kind and gentle people for 90 days and see what they do. Just go to any marketing forum and search for like Google Ads employee ruins my campaign. They know nothing. They're reading from a textbook. They've never actually run campaigns. I've interviewed these people for jobs. I've seen behind the scenes. No matter who you hire, there's so many good agencies out there. So many good agencies. Please don't let a Google Ads employee run your campaigns. Everybody do Jan a favor. If Google has ruined your account and ruined your campaign, drop it in the chat. Drop it in the live feed. If you've gotten a call or an email from somebody at Google and they're like, oh yeah, you should. And by the way, they're always going to say maximize conversions. That's Google's favorite thing to do. Definitely don't go through a Google Ads employee. 40 with the Google update and them introducing Flock with the next era of freelance marketers move toward SEO focus rather than PPC on search. I'm feeling like PPC on search is becoming more corporatized. I agree with you. So I actually think that Flock is gonna help me. Flock's gonna help the agency. You're gonna have a really tough time running Google Ads by yourself because there's such a disassociation of data. And I've got 130 clients and growing. I'll have 200 clients by the end of this quarter, which means that I get to see so much more data than you get to see, which means I get to make adjustments based off of what I've learned from, let's say when you're one of my clients, I've got 199 other accounts that I get to use to influence the decision I'm making for you. So yeah, I don't think freelancers and individual marketers are going to benefit from Flock at all. And to be honest, y'all, that pains me. Like that doesn't make me happy. It pisses me off on your behalf. pisses me off. It's nuts what they're doing. I just saw an article that there's a WordPress contributor that wants to ban Flock across all of WordPress, which is like 43% of all sites. Who knows whether or not it happens, but hopefully we see some pushback. It's crazy to me that we're not all farmers with pitchforks and torches outside of Google's headquarters saying, hell no, because what they're proposing is nuts. It's nuts. It has nothing to do with privacy. It's everything to do with control. And you're going to lose control. They just elongated my life by another 3 to 5 years. I was telling my business partner, I was like, we got to sell our agency 5 years from now because, with the way automated bidding is going, you're just going to be able to say, here's my credit card, here's my domain name, go. But with the new introduction to Flock, they made things so hard and they limited visibility to such a degree. It's going to be a lot harder for the small businesses, which sucks. It's the people that can't afford me too, which really pisses me off. That's why we're getting in the info space. That's why I'm selling courses, because I want you to know what I know, and I'll give it all away to you. I don't know if y'all know, but we've got a course. It's called You versus Google, and it's expensive for courses, but it's cheap if you consider that I'm giving you a vocation here. I'm teaching you how to do a job that will feed you for the rest of your life. It's youversusgoogle.com. I dropped that into the chat. It's $1,000, and I have a 90-day 100% money back guarantee. Name another course creator that does that. And it's because A, I'm confident in the quality of my content. And B, if you don't like it, I don't want you to have to pay me. I don't want anybody. I've bought courses that weren't any good for me, and it pisses me off. So buy the course if you want it. If you don't, keep coming to my YouTube channel. I'm going to continue to drop as much free value as I possibly can. I got to fly y'all because I've only got 5 minutes until we've got an all hands meeting every Friday. So let me get through these as quick as I can. John said, very interesting about the lead quality. I have laundromats on smart search campaigns with low data. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, John, because the laundromat is kind of, they're pretty much all things are equal. That's a good example of where all leads are the same quality. Yeah, you're exactly right, dude. Thank you for that. You have a better example than I do. Lloyd, thanks for being here, Lloyd. I have a brand campaign. All keywords are associated with the brand, but not products. Google has recommended keywords that are associated with the products. Shall I add in the campaign? The separate ad groups, but yes. Yeah, you want to make sure. It's assuming, Lloyd, that you want to branch out. If your brand campaign is crushing it and you're happy with what you're doing, you might find out that your product campaign is too expensive because now it's diluted. Your brand campaign, you're going to rank high and pay next to nothing. So do it as a test. Ryan said manual bidding is great for finding out what your average CPC is. Might take a few months and then adjust. Absolutely agree. Ednon, do we have to change anything with tracking conversion behavior for the upcoming Flock? Potentially, it depends on your tech stack. Prioritize the acquisition of first-party data. Now, you should have already done that. Everybody, it's funny to me that all the thought leaders are like, oh, first-party data now is important. It's like, no, dude, it's always been important. You've just been lazy. So what that means is make sure that your website can actually capture information and make it sticky. Have little traps, lead magnets, downloads, things that are of real value, though. Things that really give people, something that they can feel proud to walk away with. Ednon says he's using First Click. I think that's advisable for smart shopping. Info ISK says running smart shopping, all is okay. Orders coming. Budget is set to 100 euros. Can't move for a month. Running manual. All traffic is gone. Daily budget was 200. There's too much for me to unpack there, dude. Go to 3xshopify.com. Join my challenge. It's free, and I'm going to teach you how we run smart shopping. So I dropped it into the chat earlier. I'll drop it in again. But go to 3xshopify.com. It's free. It's 3 days of us teaching you nothing but amazing stuff. Ryan says, Google consultants who work for Google have one goal, get you to spend as much as possible. You're absolutely right. Ednon, will Flock, where did you go? Affect smart shopping? Yes. I know Flock is going to kill dynamic remarketing in a lot of ways, which is one of the things that smart shopping relies on. So we could see Flock destroy smart shopping. I don't think Google will let that happen, but I'm worried. I'm worried. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about actually at 3X Shopify. So great question, dude. You're thinking in the right ways. I am a little worried. Lee says, do you have a 2 or 3 payment plan for the course? I don't. Maybe I should. Lee, shoot me an email. Hit us up, info@solate.com. We'll figure you out. And then Yvonne, who's on this call, Yvonne, maybe I know you already said that to me, dude. I'm sorry. You were right. I was wrong. But let's figure that out, dude, so we can help people afford that course. Brennan says, love your work. You speak to me like before I take my ADHD meds. Yeah, thanks, brother. Appreciate that. Cool. Info ISK. I'm so sorry I couldn't get to your questions. I've only got 2 minutes. Changing from manual to smart, we suddenly don't have enough orders. That doesn't make sense to me. You should be able to scale. Can I run some products on another domain with manual shopping? Yes. You want to be careful about double serving, though. Google's like, they're really pissy about that. So, and yeah, Militia says another vote for the payment plan. All right, y'all, we'll figure it out on a payment plan. I like what Lee said, 2 or 3 payments. And, expect that however soon Yvonne can do it. Yvonne's the head of my tech team, by the way. He's one of the smartest people I've ever known. And I'm lucky to have him. So he'll be taking care of that for me. Really appreciate y'all. I'm doing this every week, every Friday, 9 o'clock Arizona time, 9 a.m. Arizona time. And really appreciate everybody that's showing up live. Every week we get bigger and bigger. I think we had almost 30 people all said and done, which is awesome. The questions kept coming, which is great. The beginning of my day, by the way, it was really light. So if y'all want to show up earlier, I didn't have anybody to talk to, and now I'm running out of questions. So if you get here at 9, you might get a little bit more in the way of attention. But thanks for being here. Appreciate y'all. Super grateful.